Dr. Stephanie Russell's pediatric office in the Louisville, Kentucky metro was a cozy, Disney-themed child's dream with a live Finding Nemo fish tank and the promise that your child is a star. But unlike with her young patients, she wasn't handing out lollipops in her personal life. She was the sole owner of her own medical office, Kids Life Pediatrics, specializing in general health care for children. Dr. Russell received great reviews from parents who said she's been treating their kids since infancy, and many of them in total shock when the news came out that Dr. Stephanie Russell wasn't as warm and fuzzy like the characters often displayed in her practice for decoration. The FBI issued a press release that revealed an extremely dark side to Dr. Russell. Take a second to make sure that you're subscribed to the channel. Click the notification bell for all updates. If you're from the Louisville, Kentucky area, drop Louisville below in the comments. I definitely want to hear from you. Dr. Russell has over 20 years of experience working in medicine that started after she graduated from the University of Louisville School of Medicine. She worked as a pediatrician for the Department of Health and Human Services for a little over a decade and eventually opened her own practice in Prospect, Kentucky called Kids Life. Dr. Russell also worked at Norton Children's Hospital in Louisville. Her husband, Rick, a certified financial planner and financial advisor, graduated with degrees in engineering and physics from Murray State University. He also earned his MBA. Just like his wife, Stephanie, Rick was respected in his profession and dedicated to their 2 kids. The couple ended up splitting up. That's when Rick and Stephanie found themselves in family court, engaged in a battle for the kids. Judge Denise Brown presided over their case, where Judge Brown appointed a guardian ad litem to represent the interests of the kids and a custodial evaluator to assess the custodial issues between Rick and Stephanie. On June 29, 2020, the guardian ad litem filed a motion to award immediate temporary sole custody of the kids to Rick. That same day, Judge Denise Brown conducted a 20-minute Zoom hearing with Stephanie's attorney present to argue the motion. Within 2 days, the judge granted the guardian ad litem's motions, awarding temporary sole custody to Rick on July 1st, 2020. Judge Denise Brown also suspended Stephanie's parenting rights and limited her solely to supervised digital contact through a third party. Stephanie was so angry with the judge that she filed 2 motions with the Kentucky Supreme Court asking them to remove the judge from the case. But Stephanie's request to kick the judge off the case was denied by the Supreme Court. Months had gone by, her husband Rick still had the kids, and Stephanie, she was still mad, so she continued to fight. And then 5 months later, on December 4th, 2020, Stephanie filed a federal complaint seeking a declaration that Judge Brown violated her constitutional due process rights under the 14th Amendment. What did Stephanie say was her issue with the judge? Well, remember the emergency hearing on June 29th from earlier that summer? The one where the judge called Stephanie and her attorney in after the guardian ad litem representing the kids filed a motion to award her husband temporary sole custody immediately? Well, Stephanie said the judge was wrong for calling that emergency hearing because she didn't give Stephanie's attorney enough notice to be able to prepare for the hearing. The judge also had a Facebook page and Instagram page, and Stephanie complained about the judge blocking her from being able to access her personal pages. Then Stephanie was dealt another blow. The federal court said they lacked jurisdiction to hear her claim, so they dismissed her case. You may wonder, what did the guardian ad litem find that made them request for their 2 clients, the kids, to be removed from Stephanie's custody and given to their father? According to documents, evidence was presented to the judge on behalf of the kids that showed that Stephanie was coaching the kids and causing emotional harm. The public wouldn't find out what Stephanie did to coach her kids until a couple of years later in 2022. That's when, out of nowhere, federal agents showed up to pick up Dr. Russell, shutting down her practice completely and exposing shocking discoveries. After losing custody of the kids to her ex-husband, then having her cases dismissed at federal court and the state Supreme Court, Dr. Russell went on a hunt to find somebody to help her with her problem. In March 2022, one of her employees at Kids Life Pediatrics told an FBI agent that Dr. Russell had approached several employees in her medical practice about helping her locate somebody to help her erase her ex-husband. Dr. Russell allegedly exchanged text messages with one of her nurses. In those messages, she discussed hiring someone to deliver Christmas flowers. The nurse told the agent that Christmas flowers was code for getting rid of Rick. According to the witness, it was Stephanie who chose Christmas flowers when discussing her plot on her ex-husband's life in order to make the messages discreet. All of this documented showing that Stephanie was willing to pay $4,000 for one of her employee's friends to get rid of him before Christmas. The employee apparently told her that they did know someone, but then later told her that the potential hitman had died himself. That's when Dr. Russell allegedly asked her employee if they will pull the trigger. Yes, the pediatrician wanted to know if her employee would get rid of her ex-husband for her. 2 months later, in May 22, the employee gave Dr. Russell a number belonging to an undercover FBI agent posing as a hitman. That's when she started communicating with the undercover FBI agent directly, thinking that he was the guy who was going to get rid of Rick. She told the undercover agent that she was looking for someone to get rid of her ex-husband. The agent wanted her to clarify what she meant by get rid of Rick. So he said, "Do you want Rick to be killed?" Dr. Russell responded saying, "I want him gone." The agent wanted the doctor to explain how she wanted that to be carried out. And Dr. Russell said that she would rather discuss methods in person. She offered to meet the hitman in Indiana, under the impression that the hitman was approximately 4.5 hours away from Louisville. Dr. Russell and the hitman agreed to a payment of $7,000 plus an additional $10,000 that she disclosed was in Rick's safe. They hung up the phone and she followed up with a text message with her ex-husband's name, address, and a description of his vehicle. She later requested that the hitman set it up so that Rick's death looked like a guilt-riddled self-deletion by holding him hostage and forcing him to text her an apologetic note before taking his life. Dr. Russell agreed to make a $3,500 deposit before and a final payment of $3,500 after on May 18th. She told him the first half of the payment was in the outdoor lab specimen drop box located outside the back of her office building. And while investigators were surveying the property, they did not see her physically drop the payment in the boxes outside of her property, but they noted that she was the last person to leave the office that day.
Court documents revealing new information about a murder-for-hire plot involving that Norton Commons pediatrician. Dr. Stephanie Russell appearing in federal court today, accused of agreeing to pay a hitman $7,000 to kill her ex-husband. But that hitman was actually an undercover FBI agent. Grace McKenna was in court as Russell faced the judge.
The judge ruled Russell will stay in custody, saying that the evidence presented so far shows she was persistent in her desire to execute that murder-for-hire plot. Dr. Stephanie Russell faces up to 10 years in prison. Court documents show an employee at Russell's pediatric office came forward, saying Russell asked several people to help her find someone to kill her ex-husband. Prosecutors argued the nature of the crime and her commitment were reason to keep her in jail.
How do we feel now? Not really surprised, but we'll get another crack at it if an indictment ensues, and we'll have a district judge assigned to the case.
Russell's attorneys argued she'd never been convicted of a crime and needed to be released on home incarceration to keep running her pediatric practice.
You know, they're my treasures. They're my children. I don't think that I will never trust her with them again.
The judge ultimately said Russell needed to stay in custody, believing she could be a danger. In an affidavit, texts between Russell and a witness show her seeking information about hiring a hitman, contacting the witness several times over the course of months.
So we're not exactly, we have a very little look today at what they have, which was very limited, and there's only so much you can do with that look, but at some point we'll get a much wider, larger look at what they have.
After Dr. Russell's arrest, more information was revealed to the public, not only about how far she was willing to go to gain custody of her kids, but how she even involved the kids in the custody battle. The initial divorce was filed in 2018, and in 2019, Dr. Russell executed a plan to try to get the judge to side with her in the custody battle by making false allegations against her husband. A detective was assigned to the case and did not find any evidence of those claims. After she was arrested, the public was informed that officers found more evidence that proved that she was lying about those allegations. Dr. Russell had videos in her phone that she sent to the court showing the children making statements that Rick, their father, did something to them. Detectives also found videos where Dr. Russell had the kids practicing these stories and coaching them on how to lie on their father. This was concrete evidence of the guardian ad litem's claim that they believed that Stephanie inflicted emotional harm on the kids by coaching them. And it was those claims that caused the guardian ad litem to file the motion that resulted in the emergency hearing and Rick gaining temporary sole custody back in 2020. Dr. Russell not only lied on Rick, but she coached the kids to lie as well. Luckily, the judge was able to see through that and got the kids removed from her.
Well, Vicky, a 98-page court order details much of what has been going on between the couple as they fought for custody of their 2 young children. It includes a series of claims from Dr. Stephanie Russell that her ex-husband was abusing her and her oldest child, all which were determined to be unsubstantiated.
Felt like I was swinging in a tennis match, swinging at all these balls, you know, and they just kept coming. And so a lot of work went in by Laurel and family court, fending off the EPOs and the frivolous motions. And then we were really busy, like meeting with crimes against children. I'm trying to subpoena phone records for this weird phone that was calling, and I'm giving those records to the police. And
Court documents show after an 18-month investigation into the claims of abuse that Russell was lying. Russell, who operated Kids Life Pediatrics in Norton Commons, lost custody of her children in 2020 and was only allowed supervised visits. The court-appointed doctor supported her ex-husband's belief that Russell, quote, emotionally abused the children by using them to fabricate false physical and sexual abuse claims against him. The documents also explain her ex-husband's concerns about safety, saying he testified that Russell had, quote, made statements that she would kill him in his sleep. That concern was also echoed by a court-appointed doctor who stated Russell could, quote, escalate her behavior and presents a high risk for violence, with the doctor phrasing it as, quote, uncomfortably high. Harrelson believes the evidence was mounting against Russell.
They finally did a warrant on her phone and found text messages or other evidence that corroborated the first attempt to hire a hitman. They found all these videos in the phone where she was having the kids practice making false allegations against him. If they didn't say it right, she'd start over again. So she turned these videos over to authorities, but all the fail videos were still on her phone.
And all of this culminated into her being arrested last week for trying to hire a hitman to kill her ex-husband. But the person she was trying to hire turned out to be an FBI agent. If she's convicted, Russell faces up to 10 years in prison.
Getting the kids taken away from her is what drove Dr. Russell crazy. So crazy that after losing in family court, state Supreme Court, and federal court, she started dancing around with the idea of eliminating Rick completely. That was her motive to get rid of him. She wanted to move him out of the way permanently so she could get the kids back. So the doctor plotted on his life from 2021 until 2022 when she was arrested. Rick was a professional man dedicated to his kids and doing what he could to protect them from Stephanie, who was becoming more and more out of control. Rick even told the judge that he was afraid that she would try to do something to him because she was extremely angry that he was giving the kids instead of the court allowing them to stay with her. As for Dr. Russell, she's maintaining her innocence and requested that a federal judge allowed her to bail out, citing that she had patients who needed her to take care of them. She also tried to use the baby formula shortage as an excuse. None of that worked, and the judge denied the request, ordering Stephanie to stay in jail, saying that she was a potential danger to her ex if she was freed. Dr. Russell entered a plea of not guilty, and her trial was originally scheduled to begin on August 22nd before U.S. District Judge David J. Hill, but the trial was removed from his docket, and Dr. Russell is still being detained at a federal facility. She's facing up to 10 years in prison if convicted. Immediately after the news got out about her arrest, Norton Children's Hospital deleted Dr. Stephanie Russell's bio from their website. All the staff at her practice instantly unemployed as the doors closed permanently at Kids Life. Let's get the conversation started. The 52-year-old doctor claimed that she cared so much for her kids that she was willing to go as far as taking the life of their father so that she could have sole custody. Why was it so hard to co-parent with her ex-husband instead of wanting to have full control over them? And another question, is 10 years enough? Don't forget that you can support this channel as well. Links to Cash App and PayPal are below. Ladies, fellas, want a balanced analysis, want the truth from a woman's perspective? Then you're going to want to subscribe to this channel and don't forget to like and share.